6 months after Kate Morrison first walked into the Galactic Senate, she stood at the podium in that same chamber. But this time was different. This time she was not an unexpected intruder. This time she had been formally invited to speak. The occasion was the 500th anniversary of the Senate's founding. It was called Founders' Day, and it was the most important celebration in the galactic calendar. The chamber was filled to capacity. Every single representative was present. Even species that rarely attended regular sessions had sent their leaders for this special occasion. News crews from 1,000 different worlds had cameras focused on the central podium. Billions of beings across the galaxy were watching the broadcast. Kate wore her formal diplomatic uniform. It was dark blue with silver trim. On her collar was the symbol of the Terran Diplomatic Corps, now recognized again throughout the galaxy. She stood calmly as Chancellor Krell introduced her. He spoke about humanity's remarkable return. He used careful words that made it sound like the Senate had always been supportive. Kate smiled slightly at the diplomatic fiction but said nothing. When Krell finished, Kate stepped forward to the podium. The chamber fell completely silent. Everyone wanted to hear what she would say. "Thank you, Chancellor Krell, for that generous introduction," Kate began. Her voice was strong and clear. "I have been asked to speak today about resilience and survival. These are topics that humanity knows very well. Too well, perhaps, but they are lessons worth sharing." She paused and looked around the vast chamber. 73 years ago, my species faced what should have been the end. An asteroid strike of catastrophic proportions destroyed our homeworld. It killed most of our population in a matter of hours. It poisoned our atmosphere. It turned our beautiful blue planet into a toxic wasteland. By any reasonable measure, humanity should have gone extinct that day. The screens showed images of Earth before and after the catastrophe. The contrast was shocking. The before images showed a vibrant world full of life. The after images showed devastation on a scale hard to comprehend. But we did not go extinct, Kate continued. 30 million humans survived because they were off-world when disaster struck. 30 million out of a population of 12 billion. That is 1/4%. Those survivors faced impossible choices. They had limited resources. They had no homeworld to return to. They had no guarantee that they could build a sustainable future. Many other species would have simply given up. Many would have accepted extinction as inevitable. Kate's voice grew stronger. But humans do not give up. We do not surrender. We do not accept defeat as long as we still draw breath. Those 30 million survivors chose to fight for their future. They chose to rebuild. They chose to adapt. They chose to survive no matter what the cost. She gestured to the screens, which now showed images of human settlements, shipyards, and thriving orbital colonies. For 73 years we worked in secret. We rebuilt our technology from scratch. We established new colonies. We developed new capabilities. We created a fleet that could defend our interests. We grew our population through sheer determination and careful planning. We became strong again. Kate paused and her expression became more serious. During those 73 years, we also watched this Senate. We watched as you declared us extinct without sending anyone to verify. We watched as you immediately began dividing up our territory. We watched as you looted our worlds and sold our history. We watched as you showed us exactly how much our civilization meant to you once you thought we could not defend it. The chamber was very quiet now. Many representatives looked uncomfortable. Some looked ashamed. But Kate's tone was not accusatory. She was simply stating facts. "I do not say this to assign blame," Kate clarified. "I say it to illustrate an important lesson about survival. The lesson is this. You cannot rely on anyone else to protect your interests. You cannot assume that others will respect your rights when you are not there to enforce them. You cannot trust that good intentions or ancient laws will safeguard your future. You can only rely on yourself and your own strength." She looked directly at the camera feeds, knowing billions were watching. That is why humanity will never again allow itself to be vulnerable. That is why we maintain a powerful fleet. That is why we insist on equal representation in all joint territories. That is why we carefully guard our most advanced technologies. We learned the hard way that in this galaxy, strength is the only guarantee of survival. Kate's expression softened slightly. But survival alone is not enough. A civilization that only focuses on not dying is not truly alive. We must also build. We must also create. We must also grow and thrive and reach for something greater than mere existence. The screens showed new images now, Human children playing in orbital parks, scientists working in laboratories, artists creating beautiful works, engineers building massive structures in space, farmers growing crops in orbital greenhouses, teachers educating the next generation. This is what humanity is building, Kate said proudly. Not just a military force, but a complete civilization. We are having children. We are creating art and music and literature. We are advancing science and technology. We are building communities where people can live full and meaningful lives. We are not just surviving anymore. We are thriving. She turned to address the assembled representatives directly. And we want to be partners with you in building the future. We want to trade fairly. We want to cooperate on scientific research. We want to share knowledge and culture. We want to participate in this great galactic community as equals. We are not your enemies unless you make us so. Kate paused to let that sink in. Then she continued. But partnership requires mutual respect. It requires honoring agreements. It requires recognizing rights. It requires basic decency. We will be the best partners you could ask for as long as you treat us fairly. But if you try to take advantage of us, if you try to deny our rights, if you try to push us around because you think we are weak, you will discover just how wrong you are. She smiled slightly. Humanity has a saying. It is an old warning from our history. It says, do not mistake kindness for weakness. We are willing to be kind. We are willing to be generous. We are willing to be cooperative. But do not ever mistake those qualities for weakness. Underneath the kindness is a core of steel forged in the fires of near extinction. Kate began to wrap up her speech. I was asked to speak about resilience and survival. I have given you humanity's perspective on those topics. We survived because we refused to quit. We rebuilt because we refused to accept defeat. We returned because we refused to be forgotten. Those qualities define us. They are the essence of what it means to be human. She looked around the chamber one final time. 500 years ago, 5 species came together to create this Senate. They established principles of cooperation and mutual respect. They created laws to govern interactions between civilizations. They built something greater than any single species could build alone. Today, humanity reaffirms our commitment to those principles. We are proud to be a founding member of this Senate. We are committed to its success. We will work with all of you to build a better future for everyone. Kate stepped back from the podium. But always remember, we are here not because you allowed us to return. We are here because we never truly left. We are here because we earned our place through sheer determination and strength. We are here because humanity refuses to die, and we will be here for thousands of years to come. Thank you. The chamber was silent for 3 full seconds. Then applause began. It started with the Kryn delegation, who respected strength above all else. It spread quickly through the chamber. Within moments, 2,000 representatives from 2,000 different species were applauding. Some applauded enthusiastically. Others applauded reluctantly. But they all applauded. They had no choice. Kate had earned their respect. Kate walked away from the podium and returned to Earth's seat on the central dais. She sat down calmly as if she had always belonged there. Because humanity had always belonged there. The 73-year absence had been an interruption. Nothing more. Now everything was back to normal. Now humanity had reclaimed its rightful place. Later that evening, Kate stood once again at the viewport in her quarters. She looked down at Earth. The restoration work continued steadily. The atmospheric processors glowed softly as they worked. The planet was slowly healing. In another century, humans would walk on its surface again. They would rebuild the cities. They would restore the ecosystems. They would make Earth beautiful once more. Captain Brooks joined her at the viewport. They stood together in comfortable silence for a moment. Finally, Linda spoke. That was a powerful speech. The whole galaxy is talking about it. Initial reaction from most species is positive. Some are nervous, but most seem willing to accept humanity as genuine partners. Good, Kate said. That is exactly what we need. We do not want to be feared. We want to be respected. There is a difference. Also, Linda continued, the verification team confirmed it. There are indeed 50,000 humans in the Andromeda satellite galaxies. They survived independently and built their own small civilization. They are thrilled to learn that there are so many more survivors. They want to rejoin. 3 months had passed since Kate Morrison walked into the Galactic Senate. She now stood in her private quarters aboard the human flagship Endeavour. Through the large viewport, she looked down at Earth. The planet still showed terrible scars from the catastrophe that had nearly destroyed it. Large areas of land were still scorched and dead. The ocean still showed signs of poisoning and damage. But things were beginning to change. The first restoration teams were working on the surface. Giant atmospheric processors floated in orbit around the planet. They hummed with power as they slowly worked to scrub toxins from the air. Scientists estimated it would take another century, maybe two, before humans could walk on Earth's surface again without protective equipment. But the work had begun. Earth was healing. A soft chime announced that someone was at her door. Kate turned away from the viewport. "Enter." Captain Linda Brooks came in carrying a data tablet. She looked pleased about something. The Senate has ratified all the final agreements. All 17 joint territories are now officially established with proper legal frameworks. The Zaraf Consortium has begun returning the cultural artifacts they took. They are complaining loudly about how much it costs them, but they are doing it. Kate smiled. Good, let them complain all they want. They are returning property they stole. They deserve to feel uncomfortable about it. How are the colonization efforts going? Better than projected, Linda reported. She looked at her tablet and read off numbers. We have established permanent settlements on 12 different worlds. The population projections suggest we will reach 500 million people within 20 years. The baby boom continues strong. People are optimistic about the future. Birth rates are higher than we dared to hope. Excellent, Kate said. We need those numbers. A larger population means we can expand faster. It means we can defend our territory better. What about the military situation? Are the other species still nervous about our fleet? They are definitely nervous, Linda confirmed. But they are abiding by all the treaties. Nobody wants to test whether we were bluffing about our capabilities. Interestingly, the Kryn Empire has actually approached us with a proposal. They want to conduct joint military exercises. They say they are impressed by our tactical innovations and want to learn from them. Kate laughed quietly. Of course they are impressed. The Kryn have been fighting conventional wars the same way for thousands of years. We showed them something completely different. Something they had never considered. I am not surprised they want to learn. Should we agree to the exercises? I think so, Linda said. It would be good to establish positive military relationships. The Kryn are powerful. Having them as potential allies rather than enemies would be strategically valuable. Plus we can learn from them too. They have thousands of years of experience we lack. Kate nodded thoughtfully. Agreed. Set up preliminary talks. But make sure our most advanced tactics and technologies remain classified. We will share some knowledge, but not everything. We need to maintain our edge. Linda made a note on her tablet. Then she hesitated before speaking again. There is something else. Something potentially very important. We have received a transmission from our scouts in the outer regions. They have detected what might be another survivor group. The initial data suggests there could be as many as 50,000 humans who managed to reach the Andromeda satellite galaxies before communications broke down after the catastrophe. Kate's eyes widened with surprise and hope. 50,000 more survivors? Can we verify this? Can we confirm it is really them and not some kind of mistake or false signal? We are sending a verification team now, Linda explained. They should reach the location within 2 weeks. But the preliminary data looks very promising. The signal patterns match old human encryption protocols. The language fragments we have decoded are definitely English. If this is real, Kate, we are not just surviving anymore. We are actually thriving. Kate turned back to look at Earth through the viewport. She felt emotion welling up inside her. Hope, pride, determination. Against all odds, against every prediction, humanity had clawed its way back from the very edge of extinction. They had rebuilt. They had adapted. They had reclaimed their place in the galaxy. You know what the Senate representatives still do not understand? Kate said quietly. They think we survived because we were lucky. They think it was because we had good technology or superior intelligence. But that is not the reason at all. Then what was the real reason? Linda asked. Kate turned to face her friend. We survived because we refused to give up. Simple as that. Every single human who lived through the catastrophe could have surrendered. Could have accepted that extinction was inevitable. Could have just laid down and died. But we did not. We chose to fight. We chose to adapt. We chose to build something new from the ashes of our old civilization. That choice, that refusal to quit, that is what saved us. She walked over to her desk and picked up a small object. It was a fragment of stone from Earth's surface. It was one of the first samples retrieved after the Senate agreed to withdraw the mining operations. She held it carefully in her hand. "That is what makes humanity special," Kate continued. "It is not our technology. It is not our weapons. It is not our intelligence or our ships or our resources. What makes us special is our sheer stubborn refusal to die quietly. When the universe tries to kill us, we take it personally. We get angry. We get determined. And we find a way to survive no matter what." Linda smiled warmly. "Is that the message you are planning to deliver in your speech at the Founders' Day celebration next month? The Senate invited you to give the keynote address, remember?" "Something like that," Kate said. "I am going to remind them that extinction is not a bureaucratic process. It is not something you can declare by taking a vote in a committee meeting. Extinction is a biological reality. It only happens when the very last member of a species actually dies. Everything else is just assumptions and paperwork." She set the stone fragment back down on her desk carefully. "They tried to declare us extinct while we were still very much alive. That was their fundamental mistake. They assumed that silence meant death. They assumed that absence meant extinction. They forgot that sometimes the most dangerous creature is the one you think is already dead." Linda nodded slowly. "And now they know better. Now they will never make that mistake again. Now they know better," Kate agreed firmly. "Humanity is back. We have reclaimed our Senate seat. We have reestablished our sovereignty over our territory. We have proven that we are a force to be reckoned with, and we are here to stay for a very long time." She looked out at Earth one final time. In orbit above the planet, the Terran reclamation fleet stood on constant guard. 300 powerful warships represented humanity's determination to never be helpless again. They were a symbol of strength. They were a promise of protection. They were proof that humanity had learned from its near-death experience. The Senate had declared humanity extinct without proper verification. They had been completely wrong. They had badly underestimated the human capacity for survival. They had underestimated human adaptability. They had underestimated the sheer bloody-minded persistence that humans showed when facing impossible odds. It was a mistake the Senate would never make again. Every species in the galaxy now knew that humanity was back. They knew humans were strong. They knew humans were determined. And most importantly, they knew that counting humans out was always a bad idea. Kate smiled and moved away from the viewport. There was so much work still to be done. A civilization needed to be fully rebuilt. Colonies needed to be established and expanded. Diplomatic relationships needed to be carefully managed. Trade networks needed to be created. Infrastructure needed to be constructed. The future needed to be carefully planned and built. But for the first time in 73 years, humans could plan that future with confidence. They were no longer hiding. They were no longer afraid. They were no longer struggling just to survive day by day. They had a place at the table again. They had rights. They had territory. They had respect. And somewhere out there in the vast darkness between the stars, other groups of humans might still exist. Other survivors. Other communities that had somehow made it through the catastrophe. The possible discovery of 50,000 more humans in the Andromeda region proved that. Where there was one group, there might be others. The galaxy had tried to forget humanity. It had tried to erase their existence from memory. It had tried to divide up their territory and pretend they had never mattered. But humanity had refused to be forgotten. They had refused to be erased. They had refused to go quietly into extinction. Kate Morrison looked at the stars through the viewport and felt a deep sense of purpose. Her mission was far from over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But the hardest part was done. Humanity had survived. They had returned. They had reclaimed their rightful place. Everything else would follow from that foundation. The future was bright. The future was full of possibilities. The future belonged to humanity once again. 4 hours later, the Senate chamber filled again. The representatives returned to their floating platforms. The atmosphere was different now. The shock and surprise were gone. Now there was tension and uncertainty. Nobody knew what decision had been reached. Chancellor Krell looked like he had aged 10 years in 4 hours. His purple skin had lost some of its vibrant color. He looked tired. He looked stressed. He called the session to order and the room fell silent immediately. "The Senate has reviewed all the relevant provisions of the Galactic Charter," Krell announced. His voice was formal and carefully controlled. While we dispute some aspects of your legal interpretation, we acknowledge that the matter is not entirely clear. The Charter does require proper verification of extinction, and such verification was not performed. Therefore, we are prepared to offer a compromise. Kate leaned forward slightly. I am listening. First, Krell continued, we will formally recognize humanity as an extant species. Your Senate seat will be fully restored with complete voting rights. All mining operations on Earth will cease immediately and permanently. The planet will be returned to full human control. Any artifacts or items taken from Earth will be returned within 6 months. Kate nodded slowly. That is a good start. Continue. However, Krell said, we must address the issue of territories that were resettled during your absence. 17 former human colonies have been occupied and developed by other species. These species have invested significant resources. They have built infrastructure. They have established permanent populations. We cannot simply evict them without serious consequences. Kate's expression hardened. You want me to accept that other species can keep territory they took while we were unable to defend it? You are asking me to legitimize what amounts to occupation and theft. Ambassador Thelix moved forward on her platform. Her transparent body rippled gently. Consider the practical reality, Commander Morrison. Your current population is 143 million people. You cannot immediately settle and utilize all your former territories. You simply do not have the numbers. Joint administration would allow you to benefit from the infrastructure that already exists. You would have income from resources being extracted. You would have a say in all decisions. Over time, as your population grows, you could negotiate transfer of full control. Kate was quiet for a long moment. She thought carefully. She had expected resistance. She had been prepared to go to war if necessary. This compromise was actually better than she had secretly hoped for. It was not perfect, but it was workable. It gave humanity most of what they needed while avoiding a devastating war. I will agree to joint administration, Kate said finally, but only under specific conditions. First, any resources extracted from these joint territories must be split exactly 50-50. Half goes to humanity, half goes to the current occupants. No exceptions. Second, humans must have equal representation in all administrative bodies and decision-making processes. We will not be junior partners. Third, we reserve the right to renegotiate all terms every 10 years. As our population grows, the terms must reflect that growth. Fourth, all historical artifacts and cultural items taken from any human world must be returned immediately and completely. The Zaref representative clicked his mandibles loudly. The sound indicated frustration and anger. Some of those artifacts are in private collections scattered across 1,000 worlds. It would be nearly impossible to retrieve them all. The cost would be enormous. Kate turned to look directly at him. Her voice was cold as ice. Then I suggest you find a way to make it possible. Those items were not yours to take in the first place. They are stolen property. They belong to humanity. If they are not returned within 6 months, we will consider it continued theft, and we will respond to theft with appropriate force. Do I make myself clear? The Zaref representative started to argue, but Chancellor Krell raised his hand for silence. Your terms are acceptable to the majority of the Senate. We will draw up formal legal agreements. Teams of lawyers and diplomats will work out all the details. But I have a question for you, Commander Morrison. Yes? Kate asked. You said you have been watching us for 40 years. You could have revealed yourselves at any time. Why did you wait? Why not come forward sooner? Why did you wait specifically until we started mining operations on Earth? Kate smiled slightly. It was not a pleasant smile. Because we needed to conduct a test. We needed to see how you would behave. Would you respect our territory, even when we were not there to defend it? Would you honor the memory of a civilization you thought was dead? Would you show basic decency and respect? Or would you treat our worlds as nothing more than resources to be exploited? She gestured around the chamber at all the assembled representatives. You failed that test. Every single one of you failed it completely. The moment you believed we were extinct, you immediately began arguing about how to divide up our territory. You treated our worlds like they were abandoned garbage to be picked through. You showed no respect. You showed no honor. You showed no basic decency. That tells us everything we need to know about how this Senate truly operates. Many representatives looked uncomfortable. Some looked ashamed. Others looked defensive. But nobody could deny the truth of her words. The Kryn representative spoke up. So what happens now? You have your seat back. You have agreements in place. What role will humanity play in this Senate going forward? Now we move forward, Kate said. We will honor the agreements we make here today. We will participate in Senate proceedings. We will trade with those who wish to trade fairly. We will negotiate in good faith. We will cooperate where our interests align with yours. We will be responsible members of this galactic community. She paused and her expression became very serious. But we will never forget the lessons we have learned. We will never forget that we survived extinction because we learned to rely only on ourselves. We will never again be naive enough to trust that anyone else will protect our interests. We will always maintain the strength to defend ourselves. We will always be prepared for the possibility that we might need to stand alone. Kate stood up, preparing to leave the chamber. One more thing that you should all remember. You declared us extinct without proper verification. You divided up our territory without conscience or hesitation. You desecrated our homeworld without a second thought. You did all of this because you believed we were helpless and gone. Remember that the next time you assume humanity is down and defeated. Remember that we have a remarkable and proven tendency to survive against all odds. Underestimate us at your own risk. She walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. Nobody tried to stop her. Nobody spoke. They all watched as she left, the first human to walk through that chamber in 73 years. Outside the chamber, Captain Brooks was waiting. She smiled when she saw Kate. Well, how did it go? We got most of what we wanted, Kate replied. Joint administration of the 17 colonies. Full restoration of our Senate seat. Earth returned to our control. Artifacts to be returned. It is a good deal. And the mining operations on Earth stopped immediately. They will withdraw within 24 hours, Kate smiled. We did it, Linda. We actually did it, Linda grinned. I never doubted you for a second. What now? Now we go home, Kate said. We have a civilization to rebuild. We have colonies to establish. We have a future to build. The hard part is just beginning. They walked together toward the docking bay where their ship waited. Behind them, the Senate continued its session. Discussions about the implications of humanity's return would dominate galactic politics for years to come. Treaties would be negotiated, trade agreements would be established, new relationships would be formed, but none of that mattered right now. Right now, Kate Morrison had accomplished what she came to do. Humanity had reclaimed its place among the stars. They were no longer forgotten. They were no longer dismissed. They were no longer thought to be extinct. They were back. They were strong, and they were here to stay. The Senate chamber erupted into heated debate. Representatives began arguing loudly. Some defended the decision to declare humans extinct. Others questioned whether proper procedures had been followed. The translator systems were overwhelmed trying to convert all the different languages being shouted simultaneously. It created a confusing mess of overlapping voices. Kate stood quietly at her podium. She let them argue. She let them yell. She appeared completely calm and unbothered by the chaos around her. She had expected this reaction. She had planned for it. After several minutes, Chancellor Krell finally managed to restore some order. He raised all four of his arms and called for silence. Slowly, reluctantly, the representatives quieted down. Let me be very clear about something, Kate said. Her voice cut through the remaining noise. I am not here to start a war. I am not here to take revenge for all the opportunistic looting that has occurred while we were gone. I am not here to punish anyone for their actions. I am here for three simple things. First, to reclaim our seat in this Senate. Second, to enforce our territorial rights under the Charter. Third, to ensure that humanity is treated with the respect we deserve as a founding member species. She paused to let her words be clearly understood. Then she continued. However, if this Senate chooses to ignore its own laws, if you decide to deny our legitimate claims simply because it is inconvenient, then we will have no choice but to take what is ours by force. Those 300 warships outside are not just for show. They are not just a display. We built them specifically for this moment. We are prepared to fight for every single piece of territory that belongs to humanity. The Kryn representative finally spoke. His voice was measured and careful. The Kryn understood military matters better than most species. A threat of war is a very serious thing, human. Even with 300 advanced warships, you are vastly outnumbered. The combined military forces of this Senate number in the hundreds of thousands of vessels. You cannot possibly hope to defeat us all. That is true, Kate acknowledged without hesitation. But you are thinking in terms of conventional warfare. You are thinking about big fleets facing each other in open space. You are thinking about the kind of battles you have been fighting for thousands of years. We are not thinking that way. We are thinking very differently. She walked to the edge of her platform so everyone could see her clearly. We spent 73 years learning how to survive against impossible odds. We started with just 30 million people. We had limited resources. We had no homeworld. We had nowhere to run if things went wrong. We had to become very good at asymmetric tactics. We had to learn how to fight smarter, not harder. Kate's eyes swept across the assembled aliens. Tell me something. How many of your species could rebuild their entire civilization starting from just 30 million survivors? How many could do it while staying completely hidden from 2,000 other civilizations? How many could develop stealth technology good enough to hide 300 warships right outside your most secure facility? Nobody answered. The silence was heavy. You have all grown comfortable, Kate continued. You have grown peaceful and prosperous. Those are good things. Those are wonderful things. But they also make you vulnerable. We, on the other hand, spent 7 decades learning how to fight for our survival. Every single day, we learned how to do more with less. We learned how to strike from the shadows. We learned patience and planning. She leaned forward, her expression intense. If you force us into a war, it will not be the kind of clean, civilized conflict you are used to. It will be brutal. It will be total. It will be fought in ways you cannot imagine. Your supply lines will be cut. Your communication networks will be compromised. Your leadership will not feel safe anywhere. We will make you understand what it means to fight an enemy that has nothing left to lose. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Many representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But, Kate said, her tone softening slightly, I would much prefer to settle this according to your own laws. We can do this peacefully. We can do this through negotiation and diplomacy. That is why I am here. That is why I came to the Senate chamber instead of simply taking back our territory by force. Chancellor Krell looked around at the other representatives. Silent communications passed between them through their various devices. After a moment, he spoke. We need time to discuss this matter. This is unprecedented. We need to review the legal arguments. We need to consider the implications. We request a recess of 4 hours. Kate nodded. 4 hours is acceptable. But let me make one thing absolutely clear before you go. Every minute that passes, the Zarif Mining Consortium continues to desecrate Earth. Every minute they dig deeper into the ground where my ancestors are buried. If this Senate cannot reach a decision in 4 hours, I will take matters into my own hands. The mining operations will be stopped by force, and I will not be responsible for any casualties that result. The Zarif representative started to protest, but Chancellor Krell cut him off with a gesture. We understand. 4 hours. This Senate will reconvene and provide you with our decision. The representatives began filing out of the chamber. They moved in clusters, species grouping with their traditional allies. Heated discussions broke out immediately. Some aliens looked angry. Others looked worried. A few looked calculating, already trying to figure out how to profit from this new situation. Kate remained seated in Earth's chair. She watched them leave. Captain Brooks' voice came through her private communicator, quiet enough that only Kate could hear. That went better than expected. They are actually considering negotiation instead of just refusing outright. Kate smiled slightly. Fear is a powerful motivator. They know we can hurt them badly even if we cannot win a total war. They are doing the math in their heads right now. They are calculating how much it would cost to fight us versus how much it would cost to negotiate. Economics will win over pride. What if you are wrong? What if they decide to fight? Kate's smile faded. Then we fight. And we show them exactly what humanity is capable of when we are pushed to the edge. But I do not think it will come to that. They are politicians and bureaucrats. They will take the path of least resistance. They will negotiate. I hope you are right. So do I, Kate admitted quietly. So do I. She sat back in the chair and waited. The next 4 hours would determine the future of humanity's place in the galaxy. Either they would negotiate a peaceful resolution, or they would go to war. There was no middle ground. There was no room for compromise on the fundamental issue. Humanity had every right to exist, to occupy their territory and to be treated with respect. If the Senate could not accept that, then the consequences would be severe. Kate closed her eyes and thought about Earth. She thought about the billions who had died in the catastrophe. She thought about the 30 million who had survived. She thought about the 73 years of struggle and rebuilding. She thought about everything humanity had sacrificed to reach this moment. They had not survived extinction just to be denied their rightful place among the stars. They had not rebuilt from nothing just to be treated as if they did not matter. They had come too far to turn back now. Whatever happened in the next 4 hours, humanity would not back down. They would stand firm. They would demand what was rightfully theirs, and if necessary, they would fight for it with everything they had. Ambassador Thelix's transparent body rippled with confusion. The movement sent waves through her jellyfish-like form. But how are you here? If Earth was destroyed, if billions died, how did any humans survive? Where have you been for 73 years? Kate smiled slightly. It was a proud smile, because humans are remarkably difficult to kill. When the asteroid hit Earth, we were not all on the planet. We had 30 million people living off-world. They were in colonies on other planets. They were in research stations floating in space. They were in mining operations on asteroids. They were on deep space missions exploring distant stars. She paused and looked around the room at all the watching aliens. When we realized that Earth was dying, we did not give up. We did not surrender to extinction. We adapted. We changed. We became stronger. Kate touched a control on the podium. Suddenly, holographic images appeared in the air above the Senate floor. The images were huge and clear. Everyone could see them perfectly. We went silent on purpose, Kate explained. We shut down every transmitter. We turned off every beacon. We stopped all broadcasts into space. We made you think we were extinct because we needed something precious. We needed time. Time to grieve for our dead. Time to process our loss. Time to rebuild everything we had lost. Time to become something new and stronger than we were before. The holographic images showed massive ships floating in space. They showed enormous construction yards where new vessels were being built. They showed orbital habitats where people lived and worked. The designs were clearly human, but the technology looked far more advanced than anything humanity had possessed before the disaster. For 73 years we have been rebuilding. We hid in the shadows of dead star systems. We found forgotten nebulae where nobody would look for us. We took apart all our old technologies and completely rebuilt them from the ground up. We learned from every mistake we had ever made. We became efficient. We became resilient. We became utterly and completely focused on survival. A representative from the Kryn Empire spoke up. The Kryn were famous throughout the galaxy for their military strength. They were warriors. This particular Kryn was large and covered in thick armor-like skin. These images could be fake. You could be creating them with computers. You could be the last surviving human making up stories. You could have good technology for creating false images, but nothing else. Prove to us that humanity still exists as a real species with real numbers. Kate's smile grew wider. Computer, open a communication channel. Connect to the fleet. The holographic display changed. Now it showed a view of space. The Senate's own sensors confirmed the view was real and happening right now. The region of space shown on the display appeared completely empty. The sensors showed nothing there, then everything changed. The stealth fields dropped. Special technology that had been hiding the ships suddenly turned off. 300 warships appeared out of nowhere. They materialized in perfect military formation. They completely surrounded the Senate station. The ships were sleek and angular. They had sharp lines and looked dangerous. They were covered in special armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Each ship was bristling with weapons. The weapons were unlike anything most of the Senate had ever seen. Even the Kryn representative went completely silent. A new voice came through the Senate speakers. It was another human voice. This is Captain Linda Brooks of the Terran Reclamation Fleet. All 300 vessels you see are fully crewed and fully operational. Every single one is ready for combat. We have another 800 ships in nearby star systems. They can be here in hours if needed, and that is just our military fleet. Our civilian population currently stands at 143 million people. Our numbers are growing every day. The Senate chamber was completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. 2,000 representatives sat frozen in shock. Many of them had their mouths open. Many had stopped breathing. The reality of what they were seeing was almost too much to process. Kate let the silence stretch out. She wanted them to really understand. She wanted them to really see. Finally, she spoke again. Humanity is not extinct. We are not gone. We are not weak. We are not helpless. And there is something else you need to know. We have been watching you. We have been watching you very carefully. Chancellor Krell's purple skin had turned very pale. He looked sick. Watching us? What do you mean? We have monitored every Senate session for the past 40 years, Kate said. Her voice was hard now. There was anger in it. We have listened to every debate. We have tracked the movement of every ship in this region of space. We have observed everything you have done. We know exactly which species has been strip mining our former colonies. We know exactly who has been stealing artifacts and treasures from our abandoned settlements. We know who has been selling pieces of human history on the black market for profit. We know everything. She leaned forward. Her eyes were intense. We watched you declare us extinct without even sending anyone to check. We watched you immediately start arguing about how to divide up our territory. We watched you treat our worlds like abandoned property to be looted. We watched you show no respect for our civilization. We watched you show no honor for our memory. Many of the alien representatives looked uncomfortable now. Some looked ashamed. Others looked angry at being caught. Several species had indeed been taking resources from old human territories. They had thought nobody would ever know. They had thought nobody would ever care. Ambassador Thelic spoke carefully. Her voice was quieter than before. If you have been watching us for 40 years, why reveal yourself now? Why not remain hidden? Why show yourself at this particular moment? Kate's expression became very serious. The anger in her eyes grew stronger. Because 3 weeks ago, the Zareth Mining Consortium began major operations on Earth itself. They are currently strip mining the region that used to be called the Pacific Northwest. They are destroying the land where 2 billion people are buried. They are digging up the graves of our ancestors to extract rare metals from the ground. They are desecrating our homeworld for profit. A tall alien stood up abruptly. It looked like a giant praying mantis. It represented the Zareth species. Those operations are completely legal under your salvage protocols. The planet was officially declared abandoned. We filed all the proper paperwork. We followed all the rules. Kate turned to look directly at the Zareth representative. Her voice was cold. Declared abandoned by whom? Not by us. We never abandoned Earth. We simply could not live there anymore. The environment was too damaged. But it remains our homeworld. It remains sacred to us. It is where our species was born. It is where billions of our people are buried, and you are destroying it to make money. The Zareth's mandibles clicked together in agitation. It was a sign of anger in their species. The Senate's decision was unanimous. Everyone agreed. The laws are perfectly clear. You have no legal standing to object to our operations. Kate pulled out a small tablet computer. She touched it and text appeared in the air above the Senate floor. Actually, we have every right to object. According to the original Galactic Charter, which I believe is still the foundation of your entire legal system, a founding member species retains all rights to their territory. They keep those rights unless 2 things happen. Either they formally give up the territory in an official document, or they are proven to be extinct through direct observation and proper verification. She highlighted specific sections of the ancient law. The text was clear. You never sent anyone to verify that we were extinct. You simply assumed we were gone because we stopped broadcasting. Under the Charter, that is not sufficient proof. That is not proper verification. Our seat in this Senate was never legally forfeit. It was never legally empty. You had no right to remove it. Chancellor Krell examined the text floating in the air. He clearly did not like what he was reading. This is a technicality. This is a minor detail in ancient law. It is the law, Kate said firmly. It is the same law you were planning to use to justify taking our territory. Either the Charter matters and must be followed, or it does not matter at all. Which is it? You cannot pick and choose which laws to follow based on what is convenient for you. The huge meeting room was shaped like a giant circle. It stretched so wide that you could fit 10 football fields inside it. The ceiling was made of special crystal that let light from distant stars shine through. Around the room, floating platforms held representatives from 2,000 different alien species. Each platform floated in its own special gravity field. In the middle of everything, raised higher than all the others, sat 5 special seats for the founding species of the Galactic Senate. 4 of those seats had aliens sitting in them. The 5th seat was empty. It had been empty for 73 years. That empty seat belonged to Earth. Today, the Senate was going to remove it forever. Chancellor Krell stood up. He was tall and purple with 7 fingers on each hand. He belonged to a species called the Vorthians. When he raised his hand, everyone stopped talking. His voice came through a special device that translated his words into 2,000 different languages at the same time. We are here today to make official what we all know is true. The humans are gone. They are extinct. Their planet Earth is silent. Their colonies in space have been dark for 3 generations. We have not detected a single human ship anywhere in known space for 73 years, not since the terrible disaster happened to their world. Ambassador Thelix moved in her seat. She looked like a jellyfish but much bigger. Her body was clear and you could see through it. She came from a water world. Our scientific probes have checked everything. The data is clear. Earth's environment collapsed completely. The air readings show that all their factories and cities stopped working 71 years ago. We must accept the truth. The humans are dead. We need to divide up their old territory according to our salvage laws. Many of the aliens in the room nodded and made sounds of agreement. Several groups had already written down claims for the old human space. That area was valuable. It had lots of useful minerals and resources. It was also located near 3 major space highways that ships used to travel quickly between stars. Chancellor Krell spoke again. His voice was solemn. Then let it be written in our records. By the agreement of everyone in this Senate, we declare that humans are extinct. Their species is gone. Their seat here is now empty and will be removed. Let their memory remind us that even the most promising civilizations can fail and disappear. The words echoed through the massive chamber. Some representatives immediately began talking to each other about which companies would be first to file claims for mining rights in the old human solar system. They wanted to dig up resources from the dead planets. Then something unexpected happened. The main entrance doors suddenly burst open. They did not break or explode with violence. Instead, a powerful electromagnetic pulse hit the security system. The pulse overrode all the controls. The huge metal doors swung wide open. Alarm systems started screaming. Security robots flew quickly toward the entrance. A figure walked through the open doorway. The figure was human. She was unmistakably and impossibly human. She stood about 5.5 feet tall. Her skin was dark. Her black hair was cut very short. She wore a formal suit that was dark blue, almost black. The style of her suit was fashionable on Earth before the great disaster happened. On her collar, she wore a badge with a symbol. It was the symbol of the Terran Diplomatic Corps. Nobody had seen that symbol in living memory. The Terran Diplomatic Corps was the official group that represented Earth in galactic affairs. The security robots stopped about 10 feet away from her. They hovered in the air, not knowing what to do. Their computer programs had instructions for dealing with threats. But those programs had no instructions for dealing with species that were supposed to be extinct. The robots were confused. The woman walked past the floating robots as if they were not even there. She seemed completely calm and unbothered. 2,000 alien representatives watched in complete and total silence. The only sound was the clicking of her shoes on the floor. Each step echoed in the quiet. She walked across the Senate floor with confidence. She did not ask for permission. She did not hesitate. She climbed the steps that led to the central raised platform, where the 5 founding seats were located. Then she sat down in the chair that was marked with Earth symbols. Chancellor Krell was the first to recover from his shock. His purple skin turned a lighter shade. This is impossible. This cannot be real. Who are you? How did you get past our security systems? How did you break through our defenses? The woman leaned back in the chair. She looked comfortable and relaxed. Then she smiled. It was not a warm or friendly smile. It was the kind of smile that made you nervous. My name is Commander Kate Morrison. I serve in the Terran Reclamation Fleet. I am here to tell you something important. The reports about humanity being extinct are completely wrong. You made a very big mistake. The Senate chamber erupted into noise. Aliens from 100 different species started shouting questions. They shouted accusations. They shouted in disbelief. The translation devices struggled to keep up with all the different voices talking at once. It created a wall of sound that was almost painful to hear. Some aliens were angry. How dare this human interrupt their important meeting? Some were confused. Humans were supposed to be dead. How could this be happening? Some were afraid. If humans were alive, what did that mean for all the territory that had been claimed? What did it mean for all the mining operations that had already started on old human worlds? Kate Morrison sat calmly through all the noise. She did not look worried. She did not look afraid. She looked like someone who had planned for exactly this reaction. She looked like someone who was in complete control of the situation. Chancellor Krell raised both his primary arms and his secondary arms. He demanded silence. It took almost a full minute for the room to quiet down. When it finally did, Krell's voice was shaky. He was clearly disturbed by what was happening. "Explain yourself immediately," Krell demanded. "We have complete and comprehensive data. We have scientific proof. Earth is dead. Your planet is a wasteland. Your species is gone. You cannot be what you claim to be. This must be some kind of trick or deception." Kate Morrison stood up slowly. She placed her hands on the podium in front of her chair. Every single screen in the chamber turned to focus on her face. Every alien eye was watching her. "You are right about one thing," Kate said. Her voice was calm and clear. Earth did suffer a terrible catastrophe 73 years ago. A massive asteroid hit our planet. It was the kind of disaster that only happens once in 100 million years. The impact was devastating. It destroyed our cities. It poisoned our atmosphere. It killed billions of people. Most of our population died. Kate paused. She let her words sink in. Then she continued. But humanity did not die. We survived, and we are about to show you exactly how wrong you were to think otherwise.